Free the Mind Movement and offer Israel Nkrumah a coordinator Edema Free the Mind Movement no
Ebeka me Kofi Kumiho
na yesim konyan ma di dwumade wo chiame na ensem bi atise no ye gina twekronkron so abakosem ene ntwere ahodro so na dia mo hu ba bia obibini ufiri enu mu a eduro ene soma wo sombo na mabrofo sisi ache ebra so se call together twele kaye no etumi bam ne no ana hya ase o Free the Mind Movement dwumade e say Wake Up Africa dwumade so praso say ye fa dwumade live o Royal TV so kwaseda we ni kwaseda bia awia dumienu kopim no mienu na ya jo so adwenche na osemisa ye ano e dia ma Wake Up Africa abibi mai mama yen sore
Amuna obaye krumse oba betray yamesu eche no to nipa eche no
na this year sabi ayan so for Kofi Kumi ana matra egwamu na ene aye Sunday kosiada eye October ni da tosu binyensa ene ya ele na nidi na ga say ya na eye Free the Mind Wake Up Africa dimadi enti ana madi ogay Royal Television video so na me dia guys aya me mpanifo bi ana tenase ye di kunyasi kunyama dimadi ye de sono aya fa ya koku dankwa awoye executive director Edema Iku FM Free the Mind Movement ona ni ba Israel Nkrumah no so ye national coordinator Edema Iku FM Free the Mind Movement sampa ni na kwese da bia dua promoto a ni sinkunya na dimadi ye de sono ana so so mpanifo da kan nsa wa tan sinkunya ana ti dimadi ye de ba da sono na asema ya document no eye just situations and some na subtopic na ye hwe no referring saying land grabbing yen sase a ene kwesi kokko affect mo pobon so ni kwesi konyasen na so a omunam so echinchin yen sa na ene sase no omogine na ngati maso ni nsem ensase ni bi senya hectare any acres of land senya ya omotono mabo na ni nyina no mpanyifu aye crowd senne omo nyina ebesomu na wote senne ye tena ase no eye wofa Israel ade yen wura diemoni na anyasam kitwa amema yehu diemu tripa enam so ani bienti a diemu omofa so a omo bi pie bibimam ha na ofa eda na di ma yehu se abrafo ne boko no mo hihye yema bitia ye before na aya o mi so na abrafo na de ba na so no de ba e de mayen o mo ankasa de yem honi ma ye be ni amachi kwan na se be ni amatonti no tambia no aya na o mo pe empanifo a ye yan krofo a ase o mo dibia e kron a je se o mo ba ye ntin a ebu eni bi ma mpayi ani ti last week you bi ti se ya awon ni baby ko Kofi Anan ebusumuri ene yenyan kasa ye dia obeye America mampani eye Obama o hwe kwanya omudi am last week of amayehu kwanya amnam sankofu so ebi diemu propagate ye ma ebi pie eye ye bi nan ni na le Ghana ene ye aduane a atoatisi a le fa ba bia diemu last week and then you find that maybe my you say pineapple and let you be seed body you mercy abakosem e wo see you Ghana na so le when you find my you say maybe yen ya penisui esi we any yema last week in penifui e da na di na ena so you be now back to back is answer penifui aye crado pa yi answer na you be call penifui ne ho no mami di jakakra na fe yenko mpanifo no aye Israel consult tembia no odi wi abadwaman so na nyobia dai aye quantum spectacle ano aye spectacle odi abadwaman so na spectacle di media ebi ene se sanitacho oyaye aye waniwa no aye glaucoma dia itacho ene oniwa hwehwemie isanse ne de entumi enye ho adwuma nemam ayehwemi wai dina dia ebi ni se ebia akusukuku wani ni so o hwa bia ka mo se wani ni prove so ana se wo di a usua bia ye ni si fam hwe ehwe ni mani a nche mo se wani no na eso ayi tuntun ani no sa aniema sa no ɛna wani no sɛ ɛnya experience a ɛna na wahwehwɛ ni wani ɛnyɛ ho nko a ɛna ɛyɛ ahwehwɛ ni wani nso so ɛsan ɛbɔ wani wani ho ban efi radiation ho enti wo a wotai enso laptop mo attend bia no mo yɛ me dwuma office ni ma ɛwɔ phone so ɛne tablet so laptop so na ade no paatɔ ahwehwɛ ni wani ɛbɛbɔ ho ban wani wani ho ban efi radiation wɔn nso so ɛyɛ busuantiɛn fa isan sɛ ɛyɛ ahwehwɛ ni wani a ɔhyɛ a ahwehwɛ ni wani no enti ahwehwɛ ni wani ni wie na afei wani no enya ne fa ho bi a ɛhu hia bi sɛ ɔbɛsan ahyɛ san sɛ wɔyɛ fa nkenkan adeɛ wei yɛde hyɛ ɛde sɛ yɛn ni yareɛ enti nipakyɛ obi a wɔwɔ saa haw no bia no namba a wobɛtumi apusu na wɔn nso nsa aka bi no ɛnie ɛyɛ 0244 910 0244 888 910 wei ne namba a opusu a wɔn nsa ɛbɛtumi aka ahwehwɛ ni wɔ yi bi ebi ama wɔn fie nanso dwuma bi na ɔpɛ sɛ ɔka ho live ane wokɔ abɛɛfo ntintan so a wobɛhwɛ wake up africa gh wake up africa gh a wato dwuma bi wobɛtumi aka ho live ɛyɛ facebook ɛne youtube nyinaa matrɛ se mehwɛ kwan sɛ wode sms ɛna whatsapp message ɛbɛbaa na magye mmea kenkan ama wo namba wobɛfa so ɛde ama me no ɛyɛ 0206 519335 0206 519335 wei fafa so do a na makenkan ɛde ama wo na yie ne saa no yɛnda mpanyinfoɔ no bi na afei dwumadie no ɛnɛ yɛmfa nhyehyɛ so iya kuni na ɔhɔ aba so katubam bi sɛ bi yɛ wɔ kɔ bi yɛ fine ɛdɔ wɔ adi ase yɛ kama paa right ɛdɔ wɔ adi ase yes sir okay koi aba bi sɛ ahoɔden wɔ hɔ bi sɛ ɔbɔ adi adom ɔdi akyɛ yɛ hu yɛ bi ayɛ bɔkɔɔ ɛyɛ ne sɛ ma bɔbɔ nneɛma so ɛyɛ na wɔtwe sɛ ndɛ ni oda na bi ma yɛ ma ihu yɛ no ni nja saa bi abusuafoɔ agye makonya a obi ayɛ krado isan sɛ saa dwuma bi deɛ course ne messages ɛba no ɛkyerɛ sɛ Ghana ha no ɛtrɛ kɔpaa ɛno nti yi no ebi saa awiyabɔ sɛ prɛmoto ɛwɔ royal television video nso a wake up africa ɛna obi a agye gua ɔhwɛ nti saa bi deɛ ɛwoma ayɛ krado ɛda ne dwumadie no ɛde ama wo kobi weda ase bebree deɛ di kan yɛbɛkyia ahwɛfoɔ nyinaa ɛbɛdeɛ maka nti fobibi na bɛɛbi bɔ yɛnda ɛne na awie nti yɛyɛ afoforɔ binom sɛ ɔte ho a ɔhwɛ ɔfatea wo na matea no ɛdeɛ kakra ɛbɛ kakra ɛwɔ hɔ ɛyi mu no ɛde ato hɔ awie ɛba bɛka bebree a na awie no ɛyɛ nokorɛ sɛnea woma assembly na deɛ ɛyɛ ne nyinaa no ɛne sɛ yɛpɛ sɛ ɔwia nkae 2002 a de soto baeɛ yɛnyɛ bi sa yɛ nsa ase na ne ne bɛtumi ane anya anyinasoɔ bi ɛde akɔ akɔpɛ financial assistance bi yɛde ayɛ business enti no ɛno nso ɛbaeɛ no ɛno na abue kwan ama land grabbing ɛno nso abɛte sɛ wɔ abibiem ha na yɛka land grabbing akyɛ sɛ investors foreign investors aba Africa ɛba abɛfom nsase na yɛsɛ ɔba abɛfom one plot bio yɛka kyerɛ sɛne siti a na yɛmakyew nyinaa ne sɛ wɔma aba ɛde land grabbing yɛbaa ma bɛyɛ the policy issue a ɛwɔ Africa ha ɛyɛ nipa kakra bi ne bae nhwɛ mu a amanaman bɛɛ aduonu ɛrekɔ deɛ saa ansasefunu ɛwɔ hɔ bebree na mpɛ sɛ wɔhunu sɛdeɛ mehu sɛdeɛ mɛka asɛm no nti no yɛhwɛ first video afɛ ayɛ biribi te sɛ ɛni Terranelius yɛ time bi a Latin time bi a ɛbaeɛ during the time a wɔn started Berlin conference 1884-1885 no a na ɛkyerɛ sɛ Africa asase no ɛyɛ available for the occupier no a ɔba abɛ occupy no nti ɛno na Latin term ebenya Terranelius nti ɛna no land grabbing yɛ abɛyi ɛno aba abɛyɛ the new Terranelius ɛwɔ Africa Let's hear first video. No, the first video of every American and I didn't the new terror Yunus Africa land grabs. Yeah, the new terror Yunus African lands grabs. But you video.
Colonialism continues to persist in Africa in a different guise and orchestrated by new players. Stopping Africa land grabs is about preventing disaster in Africa, such as loss of sustainable farming, displaced people, and the resultant xenophobia, conflicts around the land and water, and much more. Africa has the world's second largest land area and 60% of the world's arable and cultivated land. More than 60% of the African population depend on land for subsistence. Rich and powerful countries, multinationals, and individuals are now buying most of this land, often via corrupt methods. Land is going for the unimaginable price of 2.5 cents per hectare. To date, up to 123.5 acres of African land has been grabbed. This is twice the size of Great Britain. In 2012 alone, 29 million hectares was purchased or leased in sub-Saharan Africa. These purchases are often in violation of local and international laws. The rush by powerful multinational companies and foreign governments to buy arable land on the African continent is a cause for concern for every African citizen, as this could impact on almost every single sphere of the continent's long-term survival: economical, political, environmental, agricultural, hydrological, and social. While there are critical food shortages and hunger throughout Africa, several African countries have opted to grow crops for the production of biofuels rather than for food production. With utter disbelief, Sudan has recently received an offer to hire out the entire country. Africa land grabs is threatening the survival of hundreds of African communities and has the potential to lead to social strife on a scale not seen before, a growing refugee crisis, an increase in xenophobia, and further increase the conflict over resources. Africa land grabs are a serious threat to Africa's potential and predicted growth. Help us stop Africa land grabs now by contributing to this cause.
Sabi Wake Up Africa Jumadi and when you go so na ofa amla video no na video no Africa yen sasia eye kwasikoko multinational corporations eye kwasikoko eyi maku ene omodewura Africa ha yen sase no omofom na Ghana aya so ya me akire se yen sase no ebia eye nibibo yisi na se Ghana ya nibibo yisi na ohwe sisi akosikoko nsase ya na perfume sisi aya nibia wa de tono I have documented to say Libya. It is say Ghana for you Ghana for your sassy. Big one lesson, you need to account once a man. And it's a million say, because we call no foul. Or to assassinate the person, said, or maybe I'll be the idea. And you will never say any more dinner. Where is your man? And it's of a my share video, Senator. We know, Ushilia, I feel you never buy so. Young coffee, no fan twice. The first video ran an idea about land grabbing. So how much nationals here or mobile? And listen to about the just as let's sit down. And I say the bad way at the fufu beer, who say but you ain't know behind. What do you have to say? Global food prices, the cost. Into the attack to say investors in Sasi, Africa. On the layer in full. Now, in the man of the ban, the best export to Apoma, Queen for. That is a woman,
sɛnea ɛsi teɛ na yei no ɛma wonya an idea bi book bilateralism ɛmo sɛ aduane a wɔn bia no yɛbia wie ɛma sɛ sɛ yɛbia wie wɔ Ghana ha yɛbia wie a yɛbɛka no current world price ɛmfa ho sɛ Ghana na yɛbia no nti no Ghana fɛ bɛnya first choice nti yɛbia bi ba bɛbu yɛde bɛkɔ baabi a that's the way conducive to the cotton. And they take down a movie about as a lady in Vietnam and as a previous of Vietnam. What do you mean? Come to the and so I'm sick of me so price and the other will do Ghana. Was Ghana now beating a ton of body. It's a no any underlying factor a tall land grabbing which you could and your mouth will be any investors will be one spokespersons any senior you see play I go to another who say yes Africa curse in one when you are having my who and now say the done your children are bad here you kind of who book of Deuteronomy and then they are completely and before sending the eka when you are and check. And all can say, see, doing also Deuteronomy 28. Now, you tell me, you shall be dealing. No, verse 15. Aircon. Say, you're in so, yes, see us now. And you're no name of the abounds. It is all your man, Kenya, and I'm saying a continent. Maybe in the war, if you are saying, there's women that be in Africa for us, and they were toy sassy. Banswa let you $1 back on video you cents 2.5 cents sir and have you ready now the other country with the baba you the great factory first recruiter we go get more factory work and you be last year those are machine na say a quan say school nearby we see a man called already we to the place as also if this is school down and we in the Samra school as we are really now it is and abba we are to university now when we need biane educo cool let us all school sika the second video the second video of Ediamayan say you na body of so land grabbing in Africa we first video no in land grabbing in Africa.
It's a fair business opportunity that helps the world to grow more food. Today we're looking at how multinational companies and some governments are snapping up land in sub-Saharan Africa. Global food prices have risen and the demand for biofuels is on the up, and that's made farmland a golden investment opportunity. Those in favor say it leads to bigger harvests and new jobs, but the critics say local farmers and communities are being shortchanged. In a moment we'll discuss the issues here in the studio, but first, here's a snapshot from Benin in West Africa. As multinational companies are moving in, campaigners there are warning about the consequences.
Joseph has always worked on the land, specifically on this land in Benin, which he inherited from his father. It's how he feeds his family. Joseph's 10 hectares are in demand. Not a day goes by without someone offering to buy them.
People come here, they keep on coming. They're always showing up, especially because my land is next to a spring which never runs dry. I don't want to sell my land because I live here. And I know what's going on all across this area. I know what's become of people who've sold up. A farmer who has sold his land is like a soldier who has sold his weapon.
So who are these buyers? Many are multinational companies represented by local intermediaries, and according to villagers, they promise fabulous returns for those who sell.
There are even people who come and tell us, if you sell your land, we'll set up a business here and employ you and your children. There'll be this, there'll be that, but these are just utopian stories.
Julien believed the stories, or rather, he was forced to believe them. He used to be a farmer. We met him next to what was once his plot of land. He tells us how a man from Benin came and warned him that he was going to be thrown off his farm and that he'd be well advised to sell. Several people continued the pressure until finally Julien gave in and sold the land for around half its real value. When we spoke to him, he hadn't even received all of that payment. So Julien is now a farmer with no land. He's surviving by running a motorbike taxi. He's no longer allowed near his old farm, which is guarded at all times. The new owners grow rice, and further off, out of view, they've planted palms to produce oil for biofuel. It was a political leader from within Benin who oversaw the transaction over Julien's land. He's promoting contracts to lease land for 25, 99 and even 125 years.
I'm looking for multinationals which need land, to help them sign contracts. I'm looking, but I haven't found any yet. If I find them, I accompany them and drive them to the land. We look at everything, what they want to grow, what kind of land they need. I've got different kinds. If it's right, I can offer them an area of 10,000 hectares, 20,000 hectares, or even 100,000 hectares for their needs.
Some, however, find this approach scandalous. Jeanne has worked for years as an activist for an international farming charity, campaigning against what they call the land grab.
For us, this government's giving the green light to foreigners to come and take Benin's land. Actually, it's more than that. The government is showing them the steps to take to destroy the local way of life. There are some who say, we're not selling, we're only leasing the land. But if you lease the land for 99 or 125 years, doesn't it come down to the same thing?
Jeanne isn't only worried about land rights. For her, there are other serious consequences.
The second danger, in my view, is that to give the land to multinationals, to foreigners, favours industrial-scale farming. So that means single crop cultivation, and that destroys local biodiversity. Then the third danger, I think, is the question of food sovereignty. If small farmers no longer have their own land to produce their own crops, then their control over their food supply is weakened. And they have to rely on what the multinationals produce.
Jeanne and her colleagues say they're fighting against a form of neocolonialism. They're hoping to mobilize public opinion against what many feel is a farmland hold-up before it's too late.
Back to back. And pennyform be a mini and a how no a whole and a seminal ewo. Shall let us over Benin. And then the next go call to you about me, Mr. Assassin. Empty mamma, yes, I do. Lemon and pennyfoya, don't for come for. Yan said, there may be a new. No fancies learning to papa and look when the young so young toying. Now, if you have any question, back. Would be Benin, Benin or say, even on the pet. 100 hectare of land 100 kwana hey no pena here kwana no do ready obetimi nyama na land ni bi wa yitimi pen 25 cents $1 hectare of land at $1 I don't know more denser no hwe na aba de atiase o empanyifo a yini se mu yeni na mu waye na yesu ya fitiri mu enyi na ye koye mpa bo so ye hyira mu abiyesa ye bi ya no bia na enye yawbie anya de beba man hwi ya ade how beba yesre over pato ya ye mu se over the king kan le national over the king kan le makakra we article about the observer abuchi paper Sunday 7th March 2010 where the man of fellow John Bida
Okoduba, Sudan, one of the buy.
Okay.
Into your car by land grabs.
Okay.
Into your page 2.
Okay. Now, marking kind.
That kind be or my market baby.
Okay.
Over kind.
Okay.
Over kind.
The kind of
Mama, over there could see 6.
Oh, okay. Okay. Watch your Martin.
Into land grabs.
Okay. Land grabs. You know, but we are or there of a man saying can you land grabs. Now land grabs, you know, and what kind of be our call Sudana. And your date is Tuesday, 9th March 2010. And now occur a year Africa land grabs in Africa. Now, but we are afraid I say Ethiopia is one of the hungriest countries in the world with more than 13 million people needing food aid. But paradoxically, the government is offering at least 3 hectares of its most fertile land to rich countries and some of the world's most wealthy individuals to export food for their own populations. The 1,000 hectares of land which contain the Awasa greenhouses are leased for 99 years to a Saudi billionaire businessman, Ethiopian-born Sheikh Mohammed Al-Amoudi, one of the 50 richest men in the world. His Saudi star company plans to spend up to $2 billion acquiring and developing 500,000 hectares of land in Ethiopia in the next few years. So far, it has bought all farms and is already growing wheat, rice, vegetables, and flowers for the Saudi market. It expects eventually to employ more than 10,000 people, but Ethiopia is only one of 20 or more African countries where land is being bought or leased for intensive agriculture on an immense scale in what may be the greatest change of ownership since the colonial era. An observer investigation estimates that up to 50 million hectares of land, an area more than double the size of the UK, has been acquired in the last few years or is in the process of being negotiated by governments and wealthy investors working with state subsidies. The data used was collected by Grain, the International Institute for Environment and Development, the International Land Coalition, Action Aid, and other non-governmental groups. The land rush, which is still accelerating, has been triggered by the worldwide food shortages, which followed the sharp oil price rises in 2008, growing water shortages, and the European Union's insistence that 10% of all transport fuel must come from plant-based biofuels by 2015. In many areas, the deals have led to evictions, civil unrest, and complaints of lands. Okay, go. And also, I say, leading the rush, international agro-businesses, investment banks, hedge funds, commodity traders, sovereign wealth funds, as well as UK pension funds, foundations and individuals attracted by some of the world's cheapest land. Together they are scoring Sudan, Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, Malawi, Ethiopia, Congo, Zambia, Uganda, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Mali, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and elsewhere. Ethiopia alone has approved 815 foreign finance agricultural projects since 2007. Any land there which investors have not been able to buy is being leased for approximately $1 per year per hectare. I say okay. I say British firms have secured tracts of land in Angola, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Nigeria, and Tanzania to grow flowers and vegetables. Indian companies backed by government loans have bought or leased hundreds of thousands of hectares in Ethiopia, Kenya, Madagascar, Senegal, and Mozambique, where they are growing rice, sugarcane, maize, and lentils to feed their domestic market. Nigeria is now out of bounds. Sudan, emerging from civil war and mostly bereft of development for a generation, is one of the new hot spots. South Korean companies last year bought 700,000 hectares of northern Sudan for wheat cultivation. The United Arab Emirates have acquired 750,000 hectares, and Saudi Arabia last month concluded a 42,000 hectare deal in Nile province. The government of Southern Sudan says many companies are now trying to acquire land. We have had many requests from many developers. Negotiations are going on, said Peter Cooley, Director of Water Resources and Irrigation, in Juba last week. A Danish group is in discussions with the state, and another wants to use land near the Nile of a battle. What can you media? Then come here a third video. They say Ethiopia is the hungriest country. Now, it's not home crowd or motor or monsas. Third video, no, Adenia, that's only Ethiopia's land rush feed world but not themselves.
This is Ethiopia, one of the hungriest countries in the world. But here, foreign companies are spending billions of dollars to grow food for export. An area the size of Britain has been handed over to corporations in the last 3 years. It's called a land rush. I'm in Ethiopia's remote southwest Gambela region to investigate claims that large numbers of small farmers are being moved off their land by the government.
Now all this land for the next hour of our driving is going to be some kind of farming, intensive industrial agriculture.
We're driving west through Karaturi Farm, a new Indian venture, where large areas of forest are already being cleared to grow palm oil, rice and sugar.
Are you going there? Hello. Hello. Thank you.
It will be one of the largest farms in Africa, but most of the food will be exported. Populations are growing, so this has to be good for the world. But what about Ethiopia's poor? The man in charge is Kamjit Shekon.
So how big will this whole farm be?
Phase 1, 100,000 hectares.
After that?
After the second phase, 100,000 plus 200,000.
So 300,000 hectares. And if I started walking at one end, how long would it take me to get to the other end?
100,000 hectares is about 121 kilometers.
120 kilometers, that's 90 miles.
90 miles.
That's big.
Yeah.
That's as big as Wales. So will you build a town just by here?
Yes. You see those trees?
Yes.
There will be the town, next camp coming up.
So that will be Camp 2, and that will be 10,000 people.
Maybe 10 to 15,000.
Karaturi says it will build home schools and clinics for as many as 60,000 workers. But on one of their other Ethiopian farms, similar promises made by the government have yet to be fulfilled. In addition, we found they pay most workers under $1 a day. That's well below what the World Bank says is extreme poverty.
I think that because you were the first people here, you've got the best land. I think you've got the river access.
We never saw the land.
Yeah? Oh, you never saw it?
They gave it to us, we took it.
Seriously?
Seriously.
You did not even see it?
Yes.
They offered it to you?
They offered. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Razak.
This has to be the deal of the century. 1,000 square miles for just £150 a week. Plus, they get tax breaks and roads built for them by the government.
Now, presumably all the trees, all the forests which we see at the moment will have to come down so you can pump it.
Yes.
Is that inevitable, or is that just...
It's inevitable. You have to clear this. Then there has to be a road network for harvesting.
So it's very mechanized, it's very industrialized, it's very precise.
Karaturi says their land was sparsely populated and denied displacing local villagers. On the way back to Gambela town, we passed a group of shacks along the side of the road, near where other foreign companies are moving in.
This is Kami village, which we think is full of displaced people, but we'll see. Well, these people clearly haven't been here for very long. These are very rudimentary tents.
Around 250 people have been living here for 8 months.
Chief, thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you very much indeed. And most of the people here displaced from other areas. Why did they have to move?
The government moved these people and told them they would get a health clinic, a school, as well as fresh drinking water. So far, only the foundations have been dug.
Okay, these people are pastoralists. They're quite used to moving backwards and forwards across land. What they don't realize is this land may be taken away from them forever. That would be very different for them.
I'm going to the state government to find out how many companies have come to Gambela.
Hello.
And we want to know how many people will be affected by the land rush.
We've got 3 maps here in the investment office. This is the extraordinary map because it shows that for the last, for 10 years, 12 years, there's been just about nothing. In 2007, it started going right up. Since then, there have been hundreds, and I've just been told that the total number of investors in Gambela region is 896. Now, that is an extraordinary figure from absolutely nothing only 10 years ago.
Kasahun Zefu is one of the department's senior officials.
What countries are they coming from?
India, Saudi Arabia, and China, and so forth.
Can you explain why you are relocating villages?
We relocate villagers to obtain clean water in one place, to obtain medical services.
So the 2 things are very separate. One is the relocation, the deliberate relocation of villages, and the second thing is the investment by the foreigners, and the 2 have no link whatever.
There is no link.
So it's a coincidence. That the villagers are relocating.
Yes.
So the villagers, when they relocate, can they go back to their land?
No.
They can't go back to their land. So
it
who
is
takes the land?
Voluntary relocation.
It's all voluntary.
That's why.
Kasahun said as many as 15,000 people are being moved. But at the same time, thousands of square miles is being cleared. Great swathes of Gambela are being ecologically devastated. Carbon emissions will rise and wildlife will vanish. I had been told about a village not far from the Karaturi farm that had been cleared just weeks ago.
Actually, the whole of this was the village. So it's not just a few houses which we see left there. All of this was actually a village pretty recently. There's nothing left. They've all gone, and they've left the storage pots. We don't know the name of the village, but we do know that people were here about 5 months ago.
Gambela is up for grabs, and foreign investors are not the
Abusia sabri video na me no hwe no eye ofansa no na abusia mobo mu fancha me sem ye emotional ensam na mobo hwe video na ye hwe ye no eye ensase na omaje no okase ufitri akọ itri a wonnante a ebeteki 90 miles and I would be nante from one end to another end ufitri akotri a oben nante saa ni usa na meka mo twimu 90 miles enye kwan ketwa asase a ya gini na ya omawie no enipa na eti asase no so no omatuo mu nyina ya dada o se ya ba de bi enyima ma o ya ba de si hospitals ya ba de si schools amam na je so omunu omma ebenya adwuma ye omunu omma benya school akọ omma benya school akọ je se ya permission sa na mai nyina 90 omajan asase nim e de amam ene ye tuo na hwe da ebi a omo hwe da omakoye tent bi nti omo villages ana omo tete no ana ne ye ba bi kwa de omo hiri nyina we ene nyema ekoso e African pa. This is truly land grabbing. Yen ko fa na ofa ento ayeso they go me have newspaper headlines internet with videos na fe do not say no be we are. First picture no public agenda 24th September 2010 scramble for farmlands by foreign investors. World Bank cautions third world. That picture no fanto Somalia. Next picture. Okay. Next picture no public agenda 13 June 2011. Land grabbing intensifies in Africa. No first picture no to so MIA. Next picture no public agenda 14th May 2012. UN adopts historic land grabs guidelines. No first picture no to Somalia. Next picture. The African report number 42, July 2012. How politicians gave away $100 billion of land. No first picture no. 2012 African report, and we have said politicians only need a particular country. Politicians in Africa collectively, no, they've given away $100 billion of land among so-called investors. Next picture no the Africa report number 42, July 2012. 5 land flashpoints in Africa. There are actually taking place on the continent. Land grabbing, flashpoints. No. Next picture. The Africa report number 42, July 2012. Liberia lands for sale, but Liberian people are the last informed. Look at your first picture and to Somalia. Into Liberia, you are almost experience. Next video. Now baby, that's a land grabs in Liberia. But your first video no in the moon. Am I here?
Small farmers in Liberia are being bulldozed out of their lands by multinational companies, depriving many communities of their livelihoods. Investors have flooded Liberia in the last couple of years after the brutal regime of Charles Taylor ended. About $19 billion is reported to have been invested by foreign firms in the country's natural resources, including land. However, the US-based Center for International Conflict Resolution, who carried out a study on the impact of foreign land grabs on Liberian communities, thinks investment deals have the potential to sow future seeds of civil conflict. The report also noted that local landowners were not compensated adequately, jobs to locals were a few, and government's failure to make sure investors complied with protecting community interests. With a rush to secure investment for her country, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has allowed Liberian farmers to be pushed off their land and offered them to foreign investors on a platter.
President Johnson Sirleaf has reportedly told dispossessed communities, quote, when your government and the representatives sign any paper with a foreign country, the communities can't change it, unquote. Let me just quote you one example, that in 2009, this is one of the deals, a certain company was awarded 220,000 hectares as part of a 63-year concession agreement. What's wrong with that picture?
I think we have a pool of professionals who could have done the job, who could have looked after the interests of the Liberian people. The question is, were they consulted? Was anyone keen to bring them on board? Or was it a deal that, you know, as has been witnessed in many parts of other African countries, people do these deals more or less where they have personal interests.
So there's no transparency in this, because I can't find any information that tells us who struck the deal on behalf of Liberians.
Well, we now know that the deal was not done. The particular company you mentioned there, Simi Darby, I think, yeah, everyone knows that was a tragedy. I mean, even the president herself has apologized and acknowledged that. And I think she's putting a team together to look back into that deal. Although she seemed to be resigned that it cannot be reviewed.
And she actually told those communities, it almost sounds a little bit patronizing, that statement that she made, where she said, once the agreement is signed, you can't change it, which is the antithesis of what democracy is supposed to be.
These agreements go on for such a long period of time. You know, 63 years.
Ghana this year, sadly, Wake Up Africa, Jumedi, na wanigisu awushe. Na video no, chile Liberia, enyema ekoso, Liberia land. Afi, oba mamina na oye omudikani, oye mampeni na wefiso no. Ediwadi no, nsasi no ne multinational corporations, kwasi kwa kofo na, afi eye nshisheya. Liberia for no omudi ya nsasi no munim, tuwo na nsasi no, awaba, asasi no yaton, sorry fiso. We and Omudai Liberia and one some and a year can over. Next picture no Abodi Adasono a public agenda 17th August 2012. Transnational land grabs in Ghana cause conflicts. Next video. Next video no so Abodi Adasono land grabbing in Ghana. Mufasa video no Sani Liberia kwa
ekoye nkrasa na nsembebre no hawon na da otwa komana odido pa ye won nsasa wa tonton na ebimpon ma wa jijiji efi won nsem obu won ma na asase kakra ebusua no ejapade na nka ode ebusua santin na waba na wobenya mfasodo ifi asase ne do na mom ehwa na ade kakra baby wonya ifidam ahowi a wobeya na ono ama wa tondam ejapade yo sumbo pa na wadi amadam ahowi na mpono mbempi no mpono na ye na hemfo yani mpanyifo na wodi nyim ana woba mo woba kasa da nyinanda binum ba na wose wobeya di we amayen wobobo school wobeyi na ono enamdo mempempi no mpono ye nanda onya yan osum ye mpono ye hwero ti fadam nzama nkiti ni nara ho ma dwumadi a woridi no na etiwie to no mo ne bi sankofo a wowo oyedam asetene mu bi de aso ebade mpo no na mdo anada ebade no oba ma woni japade bi dam no wotum eton no kwa na wono emba intumi nyamfaso de bi hom na so ibenza mampo na oda woni nyima wo hwe to botum ja boaboa no de siese dam nzama ya esisi no
asase ne bi mpo no eni ahemfo ase ahemfo no bebre kura enim ho na ne so obehu within one night na obi afiase so ye bibia ahemfo kura enim ho ebi nso no ahemfo no nso no poverty anasa minka ne say ohia enti ebi kakra promises na abrofofo no anasa investors foreign investors be ma won no yagia tum say no ani ne ye fiase say yagia asase na ma won wamra ebi asa what they call it promises nimpo no ebi emma so ansihye no ba no mo mayen ko ekotuntum yen sansa na ansihye no ba ye na kire say enuoma bi wo ho a omudi hintan wa hwe 2 hectares and 1 hectare yeah 2.5 acres yeah ma $5 osha eya papa na osha ya lazy assassins for 50 years 3,715 hectares ene so ko hwa asase no na yedi ama na ne se de onhihye o moye ya na se promises on mine no se ye behwe ma school ama scholarship asisi adan asuku amai aye edesen ensu amai no ho ye hu hwe eno na ye hu ye se edesen yankasa yatu ya mona ena ye tom aye nimidia no ankasa na amma na ye wie ya ansa na ye behu se de ye no am se emfumuso aba
ade no ne dodo no afim panifo no if say opani no unim say enkwala watiri di say woton asase no mobi a wo fi Ghana ha na say oyeso adwuma hwe asase to say kuoni asase 12,000 acres anya easy obi koko ye twa bi koko agojina no wawu no twa hwe no wawu because koko for about 20 acres now odo awo atra ho awo ahwe de ma ama ne ma ne baby covasti koko no da hwe omo now the one the bulldozer sim no mo bu ojina no twa hwe no wawu scans where the mom company the mom so to bi o ma fa lawyers wo ho anye yi the company on pen on bitua oka nimbia na eobi na ebu apayo e che say o mo beto abrofo no beto ade na ya bibifo na ye ho adwuma
o mo bae so mo pe e di aboa se na ebe ya e betuma a hye ye nkran wokuaye mu na o ma san atumpon e wo ye ndwuma ye mu enti ema omo ne yempanyifo ne kurodua no enyina etoto adwen ema nia omo asase no hotumi no enyina esign documents no bi edi ma omo se ommedo na sisi ano hwe a ye akoye se babie eduru no kuronu ye abuhu kakra because ye hyase any promises bi emfa no se omo se omo ba omo ne omo kurodua no be omo ye ni babato kurodua no be bu mu atena se kwan so omo be yidi akọ omo mfu so no omo de eni nyina be fa kurodua no mu ba sisi amene mo ka se ayete se kuronu omo ate omo ho akotena kwan kuronu afu no nche ba bi kwan no so omo amfa kurodua no mu ena eba se nnua a omo twitwa efri asase no so dia ye omunfu dia no nka ebetima dane sikabi edi amakuro no mpuntuo ba sisi an emfa no se ndua no omutwetwa no omu amu nkronfo no omu eye mfu no bi no a omu ye omu nipo mafo omu adwuma mu omu na esenhye ndua no edi eye bidie sa asase ye omu diama company ya omu ba omu adwen ba ye se omu ba be boaye no sisi enye ndu ba bi ekwa ya ye se ye bohu kakra ntin company mfo no mra anati bi omu ne omu ko mu ansa no omu di asase ne omu no omu ndi akiri na hwe se ni amfaso dia ye se eba emma kuruno omu famra kuruno na ye ho ankwakire ye
die me gibi ameka o fidie ne to efiha na kese wa ye ho ye die yintimi san chirichiri mu biom isanze we die ya chirichiri nzem no me nyiri nyina ye kasa Ghana ha ya ne ekoso na abusua no a omo ye involved no panyifuo account Ghana panyifuo oma me humreso mo me humreso na dachi bi yase woto bobodan a ebeba wonso na nia ekoso no nhwe yi na monhwe na yasetena ne yabrabo no yehihye ne mayi ne betumi aye over next picture next picture no aye daily graphic 5th September 2012 Liberia forest handed to logging companies no fast picture no ento so maye eye kwaye mu hu ya no gidi so ha o mu so etwa ana ha se ye galam se wo forest areas obi ko kan ya na na fase ye de no the land ni ya se omo ba be land no omo na se omo twa be si gidi ni sa Daily Graphic 19th November 2012 Chiefs against sale of land to foreigners. Never happy to to Somalia. Yeah. Next picture. Daily Graphic 8 February 2017. Sale of land to foreigners endangers country's food security. Okujeto. Council of State member. Okay. No, council. Okay. Next picture. Daily Graphic 15 February 2018. Land lease. Ban of food security in land lease. Ban of food security in Africa research. The first picture I to Somali. So we see as no ba be biofuel and plants. And you are living in ba be and I said am kan no we be am kwa no current world market. So you are done until you bia. There are no pet whatever you when you see you just as in very Ghana. It's your headlines no. I be a couple of money land grabbing Libya ko ba say Libya ni France ni Mali ni and then say French bono oyo so I will say here if you are Saudi Mali mumwa no munya
Only the just a hand next video. Next video here. Malibia. Mali land grabbing. Mufasa video no in my.
You have been writing about the issue of the French and the issue of land grab in Mali. What's the history of this?
Well, of course, France was the colonial power in Mali for a long time, as well as in Libya and Chad. And so what we're seeing right now is almost a reenactment of colonial war taking place here to stop what is effectively the independence movement of the Tuareg from sweeping in and doing away with decades of oppression.
You've tied this to the issue of land grab, and of course it's not just the Tuaregs now, it's a pretty complicated situation in Mali, including various forces that are supposed to be Al-Qaeda-like or Al-Qaeda connected, and then what land is at stake for France?
The connection between Libya and Mali. France got involved in Libya chiefly because of oil with the United States, and Libya, as a semi-peripheral country, was relying on a huge amount of land, roughly about 350 square miles of rice plantation, in order to have food security to feed their country. So what they did was they built a 20-mile canal going out of the Niger River to irrigate this huge rice plantation.
This is in Mali.
In Mali, exactly.
Yeah, so the point here is the Libyans were developing this rice plantation in Mali, and now the French want it? Is that what's at stake?
Well, the French need to maintain food security for Libya in order to maintain the business relationships that they're building currently, using Libya as a kind of proxy for the periphery. And so Libya needs food security from Mali in order to continue to produce oil effectively and stave off revolution in that country. So, so this is kind of a supply chain of colonialism.
And is there any reason to think if the Tuaregs had more sovereignty, they would threaten those Libyan rice plantations?
Well, for sure, because climate change is just slamming the Sahel right now. They're in a very, very long drought, and so traditionally most of Mali is subsistence farming, and the important thing to really talk about is that it isn't just the Tuareg, it isn't just Al-Qaeda, it's a mixture of those two, but it's also a kind of revolutionary sentiment sweeping through the country because of the fact that climate change is really changing the way that people are able to farm and produce for themselves. And the Malibia Canal, the canal that the Libyans dug with Chinese contractors, totally circumventing the former colonial masters, the French, has a lot to do with kind of draining off and siphoning out the most important human right of water from the Malian people.
And this is, as you said, to provide food for Libya. So in theory, the people from Mali would prefer to keep the water in Mali because there's so little of it.
Well, yes, the drought is really terrible, and it's not just about Mali. In this case, Mali is kind of a spark plug for the entire African continent. There was actually a meeting there in 2011 that La Via Campesina put together and hosted of land-based movements of farming peoples who are coming together and trying to figure out how to stop so many land grabs from basically dispossessing small farmers and establish.
Video no about Wake Up Africa Jumedi and when you saw na video no the now back to back. Now Libya for any Mali seminar course no and French for the shin. Na ni say French for pay oil Libya. And Libya also have problem with aduane. And Mali war land on the more land Libya and the farm focus here and so come down. And so come down.
Frank the Fana from Akanyasabia, sir, I'm a this farm. Mali for no be omo ye. O so me farm Mali for ni bi. O me ye ya no ma se ni na de call Libya. Na Libya for one time say be ya. O be nya akonya na Frank o matimi adi Libya for so o na ko. Kwesi ko content bia no person o play no e be for ya de so. Na te se tem bia no yen ya ho no na yusu yen. Na obinya no ho. Na ni ope no wa fa no de ko. We are bia akoso an so no e be mine. Yan sorry.
Into your last video, now the man okay. Your whole experiences in Ethiopia, Ghana, Mali, Liberia, you called Tanzania. Last video, no, I would be about so a land grabbing in Tanzania.
Mawala in central Tanzania. Residents were stunned last summer when authorities ordered most of them to hand over their land. The companies from the Middle East and other regions attempted to acquire about 10,000 hectares of the village land. Zuberi Hamed is the head of the village. He says local government officials came to their village last August and forced them out.
The officials ordered us to leave, even before we decided where to go. After all, there is nowhere else all the villagers can live together. We raise our children and lead a life on this land. We cannot earn a living in a different location.
Empty homes and abandoned farmlands have become conspicuous in the village since the authorities banned agriculture.
Families in this home and that one have already left the village.
Villagers had no choice but to suspend the construction of an elementary school. About 200 children were deprived of school education. Hamed held a rally with residents to protest the government move.
If foreign firms obtain our land, we won't be able to get food, feed our families, or allow children to go to school.
What lies behind this problem? In many African nations, residents do not have the right to own land. In Tanzania, land is the property of the government. Residents are only allowed to use land. The authorities say the villagers of Namawala do not even have the right to use the land.
But all of a sudden now, people have shown a very big interest in that particular land. And the villagers, for instance, they have seen it as now as an opportunity to get some money.
Hamed and his villagers filed a complaint with the court over the ownership of the land. However, the authorities are boycotting the court sessions.
Government officials came to us without advance notice and seized our land. Their action is nowhere near legal. We want to protect our land and the future of our land.
Joining us in the studio is Kohei Tsuji, who filed this report. Thanks for coming in. The situation looks very complex. First off, will foreign investment, when they bring their money in, will they resolve such things as poverty and starvation in Africa?
It really depends. In the case of Indian company featured in the report, well, the land lease doesn't really impose limits on where those farms can sell the crops, and which means that the farm can sell all those crops outside the country if they wanted to, even if the famine occurs there. And at the same time, however, African countries want to get out of poverty by welcoming those investors and boosting agricultural productivity. And they hope that the foreign investment will bring modern agricultural technology and improve local infrastructure.
There seems to be more immediate problems like forcible eviction, and that seems to continue, as we've seen in your report. Will that trigger social unrest, and if so, how can it be prevented?
Right. In March last year, row over foreign acquisition of farmland in Madagascar will topple the country's government. And the people were infuriated by reports that the government had struck a deal with a South Korean company to lease farmland free of charge for 99 years. And it resulted in the military forcing the president to step down. Well, this incident shows how sensitive the issue of foreign acquisition of farmland could be. And that's why the clear set rules must be formulated. And 31 nations have agreed last September and to meet in New York to work on the set of rules to govern the international transactions of farmland. And the regulations are expected to incorporate the rights of local residents. But even if rules are set, there is no legal framework to enforce compliance. And some have already questioned whether international regulations can make a difference.
Well, I guess once again we get back to that question, securing stable grain prices and reliable food supply. It's going to be a serious challenge, not for all these developing countries like Africa, but for industrialized nations.
Every year, I wake up Africa, do my dinner when you so I wish you. Na offer. Abi the last video aba. Na last video ko share you know Tanzania na yehu Tanzania ya santua. The man in ya very papa. Is answer nya amount for them pay for edidi no. Oma ya ma fe villages no. Anka school na omusiama omuma. Se be ya omuma no betimi esua de no. Say school down no kwa no omuja school down no isan say ye tuom afio as say omunnim fa kwa omuko akotena no na se wo ye wunya se ya na opese wunya brabo enkosen enkoyesen we ye niema afa wake up Africa duna bi so pemfo nam so na omu bodoro ama bibini wahu niema akwesi kokko any young penny for Libby. In Tiamano, all of the Swabi, now I should program Libby. Now say, what did you know all of the friends say? I can see Yalando, Yasasino, Gophobia Bow. Now I could 2 of a fool. Unana, or he, I was a penny or no weapon, what weapon, against Anana. I don't know Tiana, so he Nankofui, and Yagi Papa in the crown. Yenty, and a penny free. Your share program is in a bear. You be fat, you be fat, Billy. Near 2 near my sister, over, Pato.
Yea, Lady Manu, see, okay. Now, they meet me, I can't one, say. Your sample African continent, dear air Kosovo and Kofo, Amans. The cousin, dear, they are in the just a sample. For us to know, say, and maybe say it me a city up. And yet the beer Anna you can say Benin Emma Africa so bad the young moi. The new Benin and Anna and guy will be a need. I see a plenty and another leadership about Africa. Is then a life I living dependent on the resources of Africa. Kokobo, any boy. If you say, Africa have one year jeans asino, I will 2 crowds one more jeans assay. You be drew, you feel Africa, you be drew also.
Over, I will see any Edawasi, and no one in December and there would be Ativia. Offer say, aha, you know, Yanimba Yahoso. Na you who say, Kokobo, and no dear, Obo, na all Chirabi and Yami near, or Kosu, and me, she say, any Butaya, Taya Trintia, and ne, a Muguso, Eba, Yabi, Nanya Hankwa, and one Casacran Susuno, and Namuno, a new jeans, I say. And you never clear view. We any of our Libisam out the Amay. Young call messages in so now for young Kankaka, na Jumedian Yan Twaso. Who will Yabra will Kumase on a bill by a willy who kwana okanye you yate. I say, we used to say, He who controls the land controls the food, and he who controls the food controls the world. Yo, we so often be about the new asemo emino. Good afternoon, great work. Thanks. Free the mind movement. What is their motive in the world, and do they believe in Christ's second coming? Yo, we so asemo. Yo, is Africa still under slave? Yeah, will be a question. I say from Kwesi upon Zenu. The whites are our enemies. Kwesi upon you are not only there or the buyer and no. Anyway, Adasco Daibala from Benin. Number 2. Greetings to my parents, Mr. and Mrs. You guys are showing Ghanaian secrets and hidden things from Africa. From Africa, here you. Ofakumi, I am Kevin Morris, watching you live from Pristia. Keep it up. May God bless you. You Minso Nidawo Ase. Yamuntia and Yatiha. My name is Bobby Eric, watching you live from Brikum. Please check your sound. May I sure say a much. Thank you. That's why the mighty king in the country is powerless and cannot talk against even Galamsey. Obi so any bisema or the buy. And that's why you try home na Yakoba na fi second section segment no near the aba near the call Israel ho na fi ono so de ne fa no e de amaye. Yakoba twen
Business General Abatown Eyeniko Multimedia Self-pay video editing, photo shoot, photo editing, documentary, business advert, music video, funeral program, birthday parties, onia uni haukra. Esan se Niko Multimedia ebeye ningina. Nesu yenwie yo. Se we your wedding papa bi. Niko Multimedia si enha ho kra. Ome cover ningina ma. Se we ya sorry anasu se uye ejumakuo bi a opesa u streaming live u program aye social media handles na aye Twitter, Facebook and the keka ho na Niko Multimedia si woni how esan so mo ye ni nyina live abra program na ekoso Niko Multimedia si omotonton gadget aye media gadget papa ebini aye audio and video equipment, cameras, speakers, microphones, mixers ni nyina Niko Multimedia aye ho adwuma Niko Multimedia ewo Koforidia eho ana motare betimi afre Niko Multimedia ewo 0244549107 aye Niko Multimedia the media general our town. Thank you.
Niko Multimedia na muhu ye no ataremo Koforidia ba video say we ye wedding say we ye engagement say ye na o me fa video no me twa video pictures no me adea Niko Multimedia o ye kidua obi twa kodi enya gudi kwa ono no dia no o ye international man UK abranti say wa UK akokora UK no wa tabi mo anene abese Koforidia yoko anunti ono de UK standard na okwa ode be mawo ope eye camera brand new correct one pa no munim deben pixels ko ofata ho ope laptop phones meaning keka ho bia fa camera djuma bi wo say impo utwa eye film na ope onu abe editia ye ho adwuma mawo bajo ofata ofrena number no e wo honum ofrena obeboss adwumadi ni ade amawo Israel concert eguso ebo deru aye quantum spectacle e wo dwaso na we ebe yo ni hu adwuma ahiri ya ni no e na san bo ni hu ban eye radiation ho nti we ayo spectacle apart from glaucoma no ihia we bi say ebebo woni ho ban ebebo woni ho adwuma obi a okenkan ade na woni prusuo woni ho ha na ekuskuu isu abaso ehu hwe na saa no for no ebe hili wani no anti say bi a wo hia bia number of the friend 0244888910 0244888910 we number of quantum spectacle unsa ebitumi akabi na ye sa no yanko Israel na fe ne yanfa efa aka no yanfa nkoso uya kuri na kwa da bi ndio so jise bi aboko emode so ba de etiase na ye wa hodin de sana TV na ye beko yanim yes nkudimdie aye ne madia ye bi atonement nso wi atonement no ye ba ye ni se Sabbath no ho dinche atonement no aninti no Sabbath ni take over nanso in conjunction ebom enti no we be Sabbath no na achiri no with atonement in mind no like I say we your atonement ni man kakra enti endwa an atonement eba na wiye na bigiri se yebeko yanim aba de nkudimdi enti sabri de ye bi atonement ya wi na wadi wakonya ide ni wo bia o fe afibia no ke srampa ba sa yeko potie ama ekoye nim sa agise obi a on fa na bi si de opeso ana se obi a on fa ne ho oba de asem no o ye ne jeje ni ye ni biara obi mu se kan ye be na nso nti amara fa no my worried but ye kono mesem de o mo na ye of course good nti wie atonement mechia afofo na super na mechia amankwa ajeman okay CEO boss ba ko pe waye na daye okay na me de mi yakato bi eco school wani mifka okay and into the rafinably na mo so one can say we graduate graduation only say na me na yi kakra e wo ho ntina na sabi wa ni na aninti na moment mi no comment mi am ko bi sign uni wa odi na we ntina we dey na senka at least utimi ya sutrika the message brother wa de okay kokuma yeah sure yeah mo ko ni so Obejuma na asemo fa ya opoku danpa asante ni ba odehie ofa bai ati kokon so de okwa na bi agba ofa asemo yin asampa o obi sakwa no we say class is coming. Assemble I just know the crisis coming. Say crisis in Africa, the second coming of Christ. Africa, but how you know? Yeah, how you know? Now, you come next month. Your chorus. Okay. After that, I say, one more on your scar. Ohun ni scan baye na ashe koko abe koko fo no wa nfukara ba no pudu pa yeah now they want to kana yero ho na Ghana achaaju na awata kana zazo oni fika dwele na emam yenu otwen yeah fika dwele so ni dia obre wa de no no kra need to get money no ofa India sure so be the two adwuma what me iska and on na otu say enye say adwuma na e ko de ho Ghana na fi no mama bene o iska say mo no motumi aye ho adwuma ama ye ko fere ho say me iska keto di grandpa o say otu obi a ebe wo ama me na obi a ye say dia yakopon beye no yakopon onye o wakasa na say we here sa ntina ebaso
That's the started.
Okay. The date in better Jaffa.
Yeah. Put the whole Ghana.
Yeah. Now for Abusiani
Master for the media.
I wear no more prepare.
Yes. Central the media.
Yeah.
You say the media. Yeah. And across the media. Now when I sunya for no, I didn't go election mo. So we will postpone. Because I do not on money she
gidi pa.
Sir. I said for our can name. Obi ayi hey Fofovi wasaya that medium wacha there Fofovi oh KJB Fofovi
ana ebe na we kan no agimeti
Fofovi KJB Erwasi afa asase Erwasi
Ode oye ho adwuma me ni ya ofio de pa
hwe afa so le wo kwa so da the boy say I so ni fie yi
Obasa ko hu
asasi ya control have me fie
Unko
ho fie nko oh so ni fie yi eti ofa gonna phone me say kuru osoro ayeko hono enti fana asase so edepade asase ho hwedie ofa ye fa ya sam
asɛ no kra o baby a ɔkɔ enti ya sam hyehyɛ wadam di wɔ asase ne so hyehyɛ wadam di wɔ soro
hwɛ ofa the film ne asase hwu kana fo no madwomo ɛfiri bere fetire we all the papa slowly omo di chain bi yansa na me dey koye we be asase no o dey fi yansam
oti asase no so na ya ji
wadi chain na go wadwini
yes
when you fi wonsa ene won nine kisi o dey ato wadwini no
and I was also saying free their mind
and also wa fatu won sa obodoro yes e obodoro na good let it start you know
I so one plot 2 plot of our man who say a wake up call so half plot to kwampa kono ko yeguduma in fact say you take an answer, you know, your Thailand, I am from China. The Thailand, the Swan China. You were 3 state, what I say, I mean, 1 state lands, a bank assassin. 2 school lands, a handful assassin, and a family lands, and your family.
Okay,
good. And to be another land in our one, when you are who in Krata. It's also unana. It's the upper. No one who will be jaw. Who say, Samuel of the carrier, or say, unana, or the asso, and the and ne, papa, or the asso, and the door. Also, with the asso, and we will meet you. About the body, was a handkerchief. And a big land. Handkerchief farming. It's I remember the say, and before you see land, you will see land, and then idea, pretty way, it's your task as here. What task as here, the more I do with it. For the side plan, we are the terminal. And you will be any. Now, you know where we are. I feel that we will not call a oh, twice I said my own. Now, we know the adventure. I mean, venture me. If you were saying, Emma, did you now organize him and women? I adventure no. Or what tell me? And you are going to food video. And so, on India, for someone, but they land not come from one quadrant. Emma, I buy. Okay, Lesotho. On the sofa plan, when you no solve back. What I say? Yes, I say no. You know this thing. That's why you have the Serbia, because we are Africa. the documents no e dia ko enti dem sa ntino adase ka say dia bi na kan no kwa pa enti wo new say land commission no o land to say we hu kata e waste nyaudia oni dia ma audience e ko oni ma o no oni tu ni lani e wa say ko abani akwa di ko to say land you see e no bia na etire bi no obi ba nso odi dare e da ho ya hin fo ngofo empanifo ya jo mutumi no asa si o maji bibia ai futumi no e wo fam ko so o no asase a wo ya no so mo ndencha asa anka tetina ka wi ukura e wo dia na ni no gori ne kan se bisoto aya wan kan ni anu no bisoto obobo ya ba no kokoro ogile abayi ma ya wof document say yi akan ye wo abayi no oje me ni pano enti abayi ka say so human nature yi this is me abayi no ni mo document sana asase no ababa wo dia it's all asase no ania yes me come me maybe we can be caught abayi ni mo ko search so we do one more but we be there at so by media until we see and abai e kan wasa land certificate yes it was here no ayira enye juma bi dia no ka say ya ba no na ya juma until omo ye ho advert o ga ha say obo na say ni mo unu bia na why late okay pa if you look at video media for abandon so our land our documents our lands so you go see o dia ko akudifika da bo ataso afuka tele no have a video okay MC ambati on first video no mo share na mo fan ma ye na abusua no enya bi enhwe
channel. You have a land, you've not registered it. What's wrong with you? On this episode, we're going to look at why you're supposed to register your land, the benefits that comes with it, and the processes you follow to register your land in Ghana. The very first reason why you're supposed to register your land is that the very time you do that, it is state guaranteed. The states or the country Ghana recognizes you as the owner of those coordinates. You own that piece of land forever until you push it to somebody else. Therefore, you having the land and then you have a site plan and indenture is on the final registration. You should register that land. If any issue of dispute pops up with that, you are likely to lose the land. Therefore, buying a plot of land and registering it to the Lands Commission of Ghana, it gives you that security that the land is yours forever. Any other registration of that land or piece of that land, it becomes what? Subordinates to that. It may go through, but that one stand tall, and then if issues go to the court of law, everybody knows that you are the first owner of that land. Therefore, don't take chances. When you buy the land, make sure you register it before you sit down there, else you see the land guards coming around to disturb you on your property. Have a land, go register with the Lands Commission, and then you'll be fine. The second reason why you're supposed to register that land is that it gives you the chance to be able to transfer the ownership of that land to somebody else. If you have a land and you've not registered that land, and Mr. B want to buy that land from you, before you can transfer the ownership of that land to Mr. B, you need to go look for the first owner of that land. It could be Mr. A, for that person to sign for you before you can transfer title of that land to the next person. What if Mr. A is no more? It means it will just be there. You will not be able to transfer the ownership to somebody. It can be done, but if the fellow want to register it, it cannot be done because the first owner is still there. People are having properties and it's still in the name of the person they bought it from. You stand a chance to lose that property. So please, if you have a land, go to Lands Commission and register it. And then if you want to sell it to somebody, it is very easy. A new document to be prepared and then you will sign and the fellow can go to Lands Commission and register it, because you've been the first or the true owner or the current owner of that piece of land. Another reason why you're supposed to register that land is that you can use it as collateral. People are scared of loan, but the businessman will tell you that it's good to obtain loan. If you use loan to push into a business, it's good. But people take loan to manage their liabilities, that we are still broke, but loans are good. In case you want to go take loan from the bank, a land can be used as collateral. A land at a very good location can be used as a collateral for that loan. Therefore, registering that land will give you the chance that you have ownership to the land, and the bank can take titles to that land and give you a loan and use that loan to do any form of business you have. So if in case you want to have that
land, now what children actually bluff no kind in an tough bonnet say or say and then we are done now I could pass assassin I call him and not be sure or mamma assassin a assassin on the document in the venture. No, your person tell me say well Ghana has see Ghana have many women who put an bench and qua assassin and bench and qua forget it London and Yaudia say one call a burn uncle of the land, no way say don't channel Kuramintino. When you assassin who do many assassin Yahudia. Obi the one assassin, no call a burn, no call who said, Obi assassin of the whole Obi a burn or assassin of Pet, Sanipano, or Regisa, or call Regisa, no a burn pet, and assassin of Bermudia. It's answer, if you be a there, over there, caught in the Boko, Ghana, Embra, and the Bebum, and come anymore. Nia ibu wa ban mu no odun asase no obaji eno order na bi akire yen no ama ye hu oye eno na akire yen se eno achi no ebi ana wasase no de kwa ban mu pe ena o sa tumi no o wasase no so ena ha bi antumi no mpre langa bi antumi ma ho obi ye bi a o pa bo ban sa na o hwe no obi pa le no be ya oboa obetofom eno achi no ebi ana wo adwuma ebi ana wo pesika e bank wo dia sewata so na wo di etwa ayi ye fe ne sen spedili aha o se wo tam asase na sa as ayi document na wa register wala ayi aban ni bi o fe na the court bank bia ye discan dem na mem e bi letter e ko jina aban ni se di bank so bi pesika bank bia no be ma we and a body tofa at the mine. Yeah, that's the uncle. What be papa. Woman, what I be a pa. We say, I'm not gonna afford them, woman. We do for you. The dinner was a slow, but we need documents a burn. Not be in bar, not for the beginning, no women. What will me I could hear here. Finally, you say, a burn. Do that so. Okay, fine. No more dollar. I found the new one. It's really not so low. Not the that's all. I did. When you are episode of Africa, to have one of Buddha, do assassin there. You need to do near myself. In fact, the look I say, you're more Africa for when you start the fast. In reality, in fact, documents, I will collect maybe scar. For one more tasso. I'm going to hear that. Where's slavery? Sure. Yes, I'll come back to slavery. Indirect. Yes, I'll come. You look at now, I'm Africa from Benin. You can't don't do politics. That's a good I don't know. That's how we give him one. I was a mood. The new pie would give you a trouble. I'm going to try in Africa. Africa in Africa. We remember I'm a so or see a buying the bush also. A buying the power. I didn't mean here. As I said that for Treja, that's a good sorry. That be. So that's a low. Bigger level. With force, sinful. Before now the first Simpson, that's all. I'm the media. When I got 5 years on the year assassin, I can say, what we are not the crew. You 2 of me, you 2 of me. Assassin was 19 miles, so 90 miles, and not get one. Hello, Lucy, that's a coward. Of that, you talk assassin, 10 plot, $5.
$5 10 plot.
$5.
If you can't even bring a banner, you buy, you let us say, every day. I say, how you know, I say, the piano, the bar, no, you see, a crack on them. This is good. I know. If I know them, be a Juma, be a year. Because I say, it's free to feel a coplasso of a woman swear. We shall big country for Cornwall. Of a Idaho. Often the little money you, but benefit to know a hillock, the lucrum. The lucrum. If you can say, say, oh, as I say, you get one more among. Among the people in the army, or as I say, and what the millions, a shame. Ghana for in your gold, in your oil, in your way, or call other memoir, or in your oil, gas, very good. If you have been out far, if you're not now, from above, maybe feel so. I don't know. I don't believe in the Arab land that is very clear. We will be. We will come out as a no, we will be in Sudan land. It will be clear. And what person is no, government said the original form. I have to come. Let me teach you let me say, who will make you. Let me say, no. The get us in they are farm. Na farm no e dia ko omukum akofidi wo nso na Africa for no na come dey oko Arab countries yo mo yes adwuma ya oko Tanzania ne Arabs for na beji ko na oko Arab countries na sanyo mai ni na no omo resources ni ade no for Israel omo chema so bia so na so me hwe ko ti poli ni na fa so a Philadelphia, Itiaka for Yahua, you are Sassi Tioka, and I'm Philip Johnson, about do the thing. I said that you must know, you can't sign a banity. It will less a cow on a banner. It's saying, your resources are at least a minute, you to me, and will be a chairman soon. So it says, Adana Africa, dear. India. And to see you have now for your you will keep it up. Education. If you ever say, the best show the Eba, no to make my solid. So, as I say, you will come. Because you also know I who you are. Let me ask you, I do know, tell you I see. I'm not behind the videos. I do Sassy. And then you put them on uniform. Penny Freda is soon a drama for. Always I see our woman, no papa, no papa, if you're Munsa. Yes. Because you can't register. I was a shooter. That's it. Everything kind of to Kumasia, almost you. Kumasia, what are the America? You see that so. No, the minute bar or cheap. Millions of lands. One answer no. When we review our total lands commission, it will review. No, for you, as I no crowd, maybe so. Say, Omukasa, a case of land now. Ghana buying any penny for any says, as you thought, and not Ghana blood you, but it was a good Ghana buying the crowd. The blood by Nasa, open the big crowd, you be here. Oh, holding my sabia, ultimate, I mean, to do politics, honest cover. I see. It will be all the piano. It's a cat in a pilgrim. And you said, the man follow, no, how you never saw my woman. You have just a better feeling about the tree, a community. I'm telling you, sure. No, I inform me about the civil. Here comes Benin. A bit super also, politician. Also to another, we have time to focus on grandpa, Menyama. After the scene, before they are doing the estate, I was going to say,
before the money no to asase cheap I don't know we said the estate so they need to chile land no okwa result to kasi ntuno entu akase mo hene no bia one plot no to mo hene no 500 Ghana cedis ntu his kana na meta mo his kana fa mo no hene aje ntu ba si bi ya no meta mo ba bi se be fa fa fi no o mi bi that's about collapse no now it begin and on afa everything me plan back o ta fi o kokudite I'm saying to the man. To a man, something later, no. If I tell you, I say, because fetch. So I'm not or him the man. It's okay. If I go fetch, you know, now he will not be doing her. It's too long. Or he not doing her. What does it matter? A buckle. What's that day? Or he not tell us anything, we doing her. Then it be out. Oh. See, it's my fault. How do you do mother office? The accountant, the construction. She don't go one man, no. How do you animal? You need the animal. You're quiet now. Or he look at you and say, oh, I'm sorry. If you need, I really need to buy, no. I'm not what time about? Okay, another one. You can go every the same plot. You can say, oh, phobia of a Equatorial president, maybe at all. Yeah, yeah. It's a two plot. And now you are a venture and come there, family land. Not money, you can phobia. You come and fetch you, let's say, Equatorial. Ngoma media o ka tell say oh o pass am kwa fe no we see underground and pampa of our pass as no more than 6 months what say I feel intino you talk back to slavery you need to power you talk back to slavery the guy can go for sorry I see anyone who see Sabri MCR Moshana Mofa phone number no enter so na fe abusuafo eni no bi dwumai amuntini emfa embana amonso ajamu na babia na kwese babia ni omo edisa dwuma we na fe yani omo emi we share messages no. Good afternoon, Wake Up Africa. Thanks for your education. Is it difficult for our leaders to form a foreign policies to control psychiatric hospital? Hello, Dini Papa Afofi.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
What happened to the net?
About the other now, sir. One decent to Jaya.
I'm the Papa, but you're to take any card, the Western region. Young evangelism. You, young Korea, not know.
Yanko,
we are doing the Papa one church, Papa, that church. Papa, sometimes I am not so cut up. As I because I've been doing to the machine. I will cut more to move home. But people are not cutting them up when I was and then don't feel going yet to the minimum, what a channel. The American have a stop, what's more, catching any of the answer. And so did you. Hey, I think they should that's it. I got 5% from that chain. Yeah, I put on him up. Now I want to go to the 2-1. Yes, you can take the most. Get a I don't want to get you the other. I'm sure Papa.
Yeah, that's it. Good afternoon, Wake Up Africa. Thank you guys for opening our eyes and minds to know the dark side of the Western world and white. I am Nana Edu Kofi inside Buekrum Estate, Kumasi. Buekrum. Okay. Hello, Dini Papa Afofi.
We do Eddie KOD, me preposition man.
Young call me Pacho one of them.
Yeah, and one of Pamakano, and Kwasum de Gusua, a woman, as I say, all can none better than an consider and this has been Yaya Castle to sell. I'm about the pass on I am quite. and I'm the organic food aka komu komu ntia da maso pass mo pie yeni ewimre.
Yes, so that was it. Shalom, Hebrew teachers. Ghana, our beloved country, is in trouble forever. From Sarah inside Koforidua. Yo, Yadawasi. Anyone know this? Hello, Udini Papa Fefi. Hello, Udini Papa Fefi. Yeah, Udini Papa Fefi.
Hello, Baba Mwasi. Look Africa, no one church around Medina. I train in Mobile, say, in Canada, fire and animal consumer to see the fire and say. We should be area higher. Galam saying you two, that you two galam saying this way. Yeah, inside Qatar, and the so. It's so much I said, parents as the other than a common a common. Study a mocha country, he said, yeah, you look at you with for now, but cover the young as I said, 100 miles. Okay, walk on one part of them. In 24 years, what? Agana, I am a mile.
Yeah, that's so. Yo, I say, where justice is denied, where poverty is enforced, where ignorance prevails, and where any one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade them. Hello, Udini Pakwa Fefi. Hello, Udini Pakwa Fefi. It's in home, Pacho. Say, on channel ni and Kasamunin in Fiso. Ya degrade them. Neither person nor property will be safe. We are Willie Kumase and not the way assign Abraham. Hello, Udini Pakwa Fefi.
Hello.
Hello, the Bachelor, Okibi in any Kasa. Udini Pakwa Fefi.
That's a friend Collins Kasafiki.
Yanko for any some to do.
That's a friend Collins Kasafiki.
Pejamunani and Kasa, Ethiopia, and Kasa Kasa.
Pacho, me person be such a yes, a you be Diana say, Yanko Pombo, ni Pegu, yes, the Sero, me be Sanam, and Motriti.
Yo, Yati, and Penny for Atiwas. I know be Sammy. And Penny for nothing, you know. Yeah, that's it. Penny for you are not. Now, we understand the land commission. What about if you don't have building plan? Call you. Hello, Udini Pakwa Frefi.
Hello.
Hello, Udini Pakwa Frefi.
You know.
Okay, Safi. Now the what's it to do? Yeah, quite. For some to do.
No, because so what I said, never say, maybe I will let's say, I hear no, all assassin, I got you over there, who obey for the yeah, other class assassin.
No, I say, no, okay, and penny 40, and I was reframe it, not can you not, I am watching you live from Sampa. Please, the sound is not clear. You, say Yati. Hello, Udini Pakwa Frefi. Hello, Udini Pakwa Frefi.
Hello.
Hello, Udini Pakwa Frefi.
Yeah, good afternoon, because I'm free, your friend saying, Tema.
You, good afternoon. Pacho for us, Mtuja.
Pacho, me, but your friend, the land commissions office. Open up could be register now, like, the beer want to send me or Tennessee. The man who register now, so meeting up could be register.
Say, Autolander, baby, area no, Autoland no. Or more land commission office for land commission for the W office for areas in Tema. Yes, sure, say, or more office for aha, I'll be to me. I'll share no register was I say, oh, sanity and area. I want no to share land commission for office. I'll be to me. I register or land. No, does our leaders know all this? May God bless you. Obed from Abuedi Ahanta. Western. Hello, Udini Pakwa Frefi.
Hello.
Udini Pakwa Frefi. Yaja.
The train is fully now opening.
I was for Edo, so I mean to Udini.
Yes, I think on a similar Amua, Nicha, what I am name. Of that, after the phone in you guys look at hobby. I think I know before watch the question in here, the mixture of the team with the program, the the Korean question is there be a kind of Korean but the other Korean pen of Korea, your pen of Korea. The mission will be media, my yeah, then it's all your movie, no kind of the different way, mission will be.
Yeah, that's it. Good afternoon, great works. Thanks. Free the mind movement. What is their motive in the world? And do they believe in Christ's second coming? Malaki Meeting. Hello, Udini Papa Frefi. Why do this and why? Yo, Martin, and Udini, one of this and Papuja. Yo, we are dancing there will be aiding the other was say anyone dancing I will be say abayime abeji asase no Malaki Midin from Kumasi Akiti Bomo. Do they believe in yo Odiane, do they believe in Christ coming? Hello, Udini Papa Fefi. Hello, Udini Papa Fefi. Jom OTV no Pacha say nya na mayi nafi so amai. Good afternoon. It is true to Abayime and see they have taken all our land for maize and fruit farming. Kwashi. Hello, Udini Papa Fefi.
About some catastrophe commerce.
Yet you. Udin,
let me prefer the Bama program.
I was on Tikasa with you.
Me say, no, not on the program. The case of the Tanzania, the commercial will be
and I said, what assassin the Onya Okoland Commissioner. Now I say, Ubia be Niswa, dear. Then you say, Obibi was so the Anagas land in Wadu, or Oka Bemu, Nasa Bemu, Obidi at the land, so the Anagas Unipan, dia, Waji, everyone said, no, say, and your point of the fossil. Sanity. My name is Wisdom, please. Mental slavery is hunting as Africa, you. Where justice? Hello? Udin Hello? Yeah, Udin Fakwa Frefi. Okay. Yo, yenso yedawo ase se ode wanu bisam yedawo bibiara ofre ase se obibia nso so timidi na no disam ene nia ono so pese oka na ode tudwa saa amoa ne animu di ejuma no eno nti yedabusua ni nyina ase ene yekwasiada na aha ana brebe ma yekwan ama yedi dwumadi no nyina adropi aba na wieye eno nti ene dwumadi a yedi ye no land grabbing ho asem na yeka na no na ofade ye wuram ama Africa ha African countries no for dealing with African countries no Tanzania, Liberia, friend saying Ghana, Benin, and Sierra Leone, and ni nyina no ene ofade ye wuram ama ne no ye hu nia ekoso na ni nyina na ofa ma ye hu no enye se ofa ma ye hu ni se ye hu ni keke na emom no ofa asema woka ani izu asema woka ne se omudie omunda sanema we nyina di eye omo so hu mu a omo hwehwe mu akohu se saa tirimu pe we ani susuye we ani hihye we nti ana saadie ya ene abepie ya man yi mu a ekoso no sei ni sei ya ene madam adi a kire nti tirimu we ene taya kire nti na ne land registration abepie ya man mu obodie we so a kire se na be ya enei se asase ni bia obesha ase atuwa na mo akọ yiri akiri kwan se bi nso awokoto bia wo ye bi na afie se na awokọ akoto a okoto a o ma kire kwan na obefa so asase no obehu say obi din ewo so ana obi adin ni so na obi adin ni so dia ene me di me din to so ewa ban mu amasase na ye me dia ene ati no yesre ni nyina no ya henfo ene ye mpanyifo family fo a only land no say abrofo ne ba kwasi kokko ba nchen na opensase no na oyi dollar ne kakra na de fa ye hwia no na ye hia na efa ye so sa na aya yesre uma ye ntu ye boase isan se tirimu pa ewe chirenti a omode jense ase no eno na mpanyifo ye ne omada na di ade akire yi we ni niama ene ofa agimre na ama ye hu sebe ya ene yensa ase a ye jagum a foreigners a hokwo no efa no yoka yosi Gambia and a president Equatorial Guinea president waji asasina ma waji mudi etu nukura ma ebi santo aso we sa woni mu a anka otu sika gui na kese sika na akoye ha na wo betimi na twesa manso no baby awu sika eti no okosia nipa sa we de na twe manso
yetono 1.7 billion
yo nti sa wa hwe ni ye na ka akoye ya
kanashi
akesa wuti amatu akaka wotoka
kanashi because on maintain to the industry
yo
and then so no okwayo up and down go come no say
obejai oba for so tiwa mo wejai chiridi enti we ana ya da na di mpanyifo ya di mre da na di ama
one thing say akọgbọ search no say who say asase no e wo bi di mu say bakọ ya Ghana ni a otu kọ nchen
na negotiate okay
wa yo kakra
okay
no akoyi do dia de akọshawa ma wona ye students
okay
ukona akonya di na da so wo ye free
okay
anu ntun kwa hwe
okay
atọno jenu
okay
okọ ese gbo me dia na company be dia say
ene forget
utiate
yo ene na utiate dia aha na ye do curtains no empanyifo a me ni omdi djuma eye ofa ya opoku dankwa a oye executive director de ma eku efe freedom mind movement ore ne ba Israel Nkrumah a ono se national coordinator de ma eku efe freedom mind movement energy na the topic no land grabbing in Africa of ase obade dum yen a mre aka no se ehia bi mu a ode ye fi Africa akọ land grabbing na nya hankwa o ode toaso na afi ya toaso am wahu babi faako a ekuso ekoso me am di djuma de mu chiame me di ani Kofi Kumi obade ya dum na so de China da sende ye besen hia makram
Ni wa matia sai